Welcome to CJ Bio's TikTok series. Today we'll be talking about poultry heat stress and opportunities to use L-arginine to combat heat stress in poultry. Temperature is one of the most significant stressors impacting poultry production. Heat stress occurs when heat produced exceeds heat dissipated and can result in negative effects on production. It's estimated that over $1 billion is lost annually due to heat stress in poultry. Poultry are susceptible to heat stress due to their inability to dissipate heat because of the presence of feathers and the lack of sweat glands. When poultry are exposed to heat stress, this activates the sympathetic adrenomedullary pathway, ultimately resulting in secretion of glucocorticoids, i.e. corticosterone. Prolonged exposure to corticosterone can lead to reduced feed intake, impaired growth rate, impaired reproduction performance, reductions in immune functionality, and reductions in intestinal barrier function. Nutritional intervention can be a management strategy to handle heat stress. Arginine is an essential yet functional amino acid for poultry. Arginine has the highest maintenance requirement of any essential amino acid in poultry. As you can see, there are numerous physiological pathways that arginine plays a significant role in, ranging from the production of nitric oxide, which has a large influence on vasodilation and thermal regulation, which is important in heat stress situations. Also, the production of glutamate, polyamines, proline, and creatine. So the objective of this experiment, which we had the opportunity to work with Dr. Sam Rochel at the University of Auburn, was to evaluate the effects of dietary arginine ratio on broilers subjected to a cyclical heat stress challenge model. Our hypothesis was that dietary arginine will influence the broiler's response to this heat stress model as measured by growth performance, processing yield, cloacal body temperatures, and plasma amino acid concentrations. In this experiment, we used raw 708 male chicks, which were fed a common starter and common grower diet through 27 days of age. At 27 days, chicks were reallotted and fed one of 6 target dietary arginine to lysine ratios ranging from 80 to 140% across the finisher 1 and 2 phases. 8 replicates of each treatment contained 25 birds per pen, and on day 48, 8 birds per replicate were processed to obtain processing yield. Here you can see the timeline of the experimental design with a common starter and grower fed through 27 days of age. Beginning at day 28, going to day 38, a finisher 1 diet was fed, and then day 38 to day 46, a finisher 2 diet was fed. During this period, arginine titration ranging from 80 to 140% of digestible arginine to digestible lysine was fed, at which time daily cyclical heat stress was imposed on the birds 12 hours at 32 degrees Celsius. Our diet composition: the basal diet included corn, soybean meal, DDGS, and corn gluten meal, and was formulated at an arginine to lysine ratio of 80%. Sand was included in the basal diet, and crystalline L-arginine was added at the expense of sand to create our target ratios of 92, 104, 116, 128, and 140. Our measurements included growth performance, which included body weight gain, feed intake, and feed conversion ratio. Cloacal body temperatures were measured at 32, 39, and 46 days of age. And then plasma amino acid concentration is measured by HPLC was taken on day 38 and 46. And as we said earlier, processing yields were determined on day 48, which we looked at chilled carcass, parts, weights, and yields. For statistical analysis, PIN was used as the experimental unit, and linear quadratic contrast and regression analysis was conducted with statistical significance obtained at p less than or equal to 0.05 and trends observed at p less than 0.1. Let me set the graphs up for you. Along the x-axis, we have our arginine to lysine ratio ranging from 80 to 140. Our dependent variable will be on the x-axis. In this case, cloacal body temperature is measured in degrees centigrade. And here we have cloacal body temperature during a thermal neutral zone at 6 a.m. when the birds were not exposed to heat stress, at 1400 hours after the birds had been exposed to heat stress for 7 hours. So during the thermal neutral period, we do not see any effect on cloacal temperature regarding the impact of the increase of L-arginine. However, we see 2 observational changes when we increase the daily or the temperature, and the birds are experienced heat stress, we see an increase in cloacal body temperature of all birds of approximately 2 degrees centigrade. And we see a significant quadratic effect with the increase of arginine to lysine ratio, with our lowest temperature observed at the ratio of 116. We observed a similar trend or a similar response at day 39. However, on day 46, we observed a linear response in cloacal body temperature in response to increasing arginine ratios. Significant increases between body temperatures during the thermal neutral period versus the heat stress period, with an increase at 46 days of approximately 1.5 degrees centigrade. This decrease in cloacal body temperature correlated with a decrease in feed conversion ratio, as observed with increasing arginine to lysine ratios for our feed conversion period from 27 to 46 days. So the entire period of heat stress, we see this trend of linear reduction due to the increasing arginine ratio. When we look at carcass yield, we observe a linear increase in carcass yield as we increase our arginine to lysine ratio. And regarding breast and tender yields, we observe a quadratic effect on breast yield and also total breast meat yield, with our maximum observed value taking place at 116 ratio of arginine to lysine, and we observe a linear effect on breast tenders. Similarly, with plasma amino acid concentration, we observe linear increases in arginine, ornithine, and citrulline as we increase our arginine to lysine ratio, with no effect on plasma lysine concentrations. So to summarize, during cyclical heat stress, increasing our arginine to lysine ratio from 80 to 140 linearly decreases feed conversion ratio, linearly or quadratically decreases cloacal temperature during heat stress, depending on the day measured, linearly increases chilled carcass yield and chilled carcass tender yield, and then increases quadratic breast fillet and total breast meat yield, and then linearly increases our plasma arginine, ornithine, and citrulline concentrations. The beneficial effect of increasing arginine ratio has been reported in numerous other publications, with Corzo and colleagues reporting increased body weight and breast meat yield, along with reduced feed conversion ratios at arginine ratios exceeding 110. Mendez observed linear improvements in feed conversion ratio and carcass yield in broilers subjected to both heat and cold stress. And Brake also reported significant improvements in feed conversion ratio with increasing arginine ratios in a heat stress broiler model. To evaluate the economic impact of the use of arginine to increase our arginine ratio, in this scenario, we're looking at our baseline of arginine to lysine at 104. In this experiment, we observed that our max observation for breast meat yield was 116, and our max observation for feed conversion ratio was 129. If we evaluate based on the quadratic regressions, and we want to increase our arginine to lysine ratio from 104 to 113, it will take, depending on the lysine concentration of your diet in your finisher 1 and finisher 2, but taking an average U.S. diet, it would take approximately 1.85 pounds per short ton to increase our ratio from 104 to 113 using all L-arginine. This cost would be approximately 2.5 cents per bird. If we look at the feed conversion savings of 2 points on the feed conversion response, that saves 1.6 cents per bird. With current breast meat prices in the U.S. at approximately $2.50 per pound, the increase of 0.033 pounds per bird would result in an increased revenue of another 8 cents. So the combination of the reduced feed conversion ratio and the increased breast meat yield would result in an economic return per bird of 9.6 cents with an investment of 2.4 cents, so an ROI of 4.0. How do we use L-arginine to increase our arginine ratio? So if we look at the finisher diet formulated here at an arginine ratio of 108, and we got a corn soy diet with some distillers and bakery meals, so kind of a U.S. diet. Obviously, geographical location will have an impact on what your basal diet is and your ingredient profile, and could also impact where your starting arginine value is. However, in this scenario, we're looking at an all-veg U.S. type diet So 66% corn, 24% soybean meal. We're using 4 amino acids: methionine, lysine, threonine, and valine. And if we look at our solved amino acids, we're at 108 arginine. Now, if we were just to change this arginine ratio to 113 and reformulate, what we would see is a reordering of our amino acids, our limiting amino acid levels, and arginine would come above valine. And so you would see a reshuffling. And what you would end up seeing is a shift in these bulk ingredients. And thus, what we recommend customers to consider is calculating the ratio increase that you're targeting. Here we're targeting a 5% increase. This finisher feed had a 1.02 digestible lysine level. So if I calculate that back, I need 0.05 increase in arginine concentration in order to get this 5% increase in ratio. So I can just lock that L-arginine into my diet. It maintains my order of limitation, and it maintains my bulk ingredient concentration. So it maintains the uniformity of my diet. Doesn't really change anything, but I'm able to still capture the physiological benefits of the increased arginine ratio. So in conclusion, increasing arginine-lysine ratio through the addition of L-arginine benefits chronic heat stress market broilers with reduced body temperature and improved economic performance. I'd like to thank you for your time, and thank you for joining the CJ Bio Tech Talk series.